Each summer, millions of migratory birds arrive on the Arctic coastal plain to nest and raise young.
The region is an incredibly important nesting area for dozens of bird species.
But the summer season in the Arctic is short, and birds have no time to waste. After arriving on the breeding grounds, birds have to feed, find a place to nest, incubate their clutch of eggs, and raise young strong enough to migrate hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles, all in just a few short months, typically between June and August. During this short Arctic summer, it's critical that nesting birds are left undisturbed. Human disturbance can jeopardize their nesting success. Among the species that arrive on the Arctic coastal plain each summer are the eider ducks.
There's 4 different types of eiders: the common eider, the Steller's eider, spectacled eider, and king eider.
Spectacled eiders and Alaska breeding Steller's eiders are listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act. They are protected by law. Currently, these 2 species of eiders nest at low densities across the Arctic coastal plain. However, most of the Alaska breeding population of Steller's eiders nest near the community of Utqiaġvik. In recent years, fewer eiders have been observed nesting, and of those that do, many lose their eggs to predators. One way that we can help spectacled and Steller's eiders is by minimizing human disturbance during the nesting season. During the short nesting window, eiders are extremely sensitive to human disturbance. It is our responsibility to minimize human disturbance to nesting eiders while we work and recreate on the Arctic coastal plain. In this video, we're going to discuss how to minimize disturbance. But first, an introduction to the spectacled and Steller's eider.
The native name's kind of based on how they sound. The broader term for around here for the ducks is cow-white. Spectacle eider we call kavasuk with the specks around them. And the smaller ones, Steller eiders, we call it Utqiaġvik.
Male and female Steller's eider. The males have a very brownish, orangish chest. They have a black dot on their sides. Overall, they're pretty much a white and black duck when seen from a distance. And then the females are very dark in color overall, mainly very dark brown. The spectacled eiders, they are also white and black, the males from a distance, but up close they have a feathering that extends down their bill. They have blue eyes, and then they have a very noticeable eye patch that both the males and the females have.
Females of all 4 eider species look quite similar, and it can be difficult to tell them apart on the tundra. If you're unsure of what species you've encountered, please treat it as though it's a threatened spectacled or Steller's eider.
Like in end of April, the eiders start going along the coast.
Male eiders typically leave the breeding ground shortly after females initiate nesting. Nesting and raising young typically occurs through August.
They do oftentimes nest in very close proximity to places like roads, ATV trails, very accessible areas that do see a lot of activity.
Much of the human disturbance to eiders is done unintentionally while participating in other activities on the tundra. However, these interactions can greatly impact the nesting success of eiders. Eiders migrate long distances to reach the Arctic coastal plain. Upon arrival, they must feed to regain depleted energy reserves. In addition to feeding, eiders quickly become busy scouting for potential nest sites. Although it may appear that eiders are just hanging out in ponds and along roadsides during this pre-nesting time, they're not. They're preparing to nest, and it's critical that they are left undisturbed. If an eider is actively moving away from you, you are too close. Once female eiders start to incubate their eggs, it's important that they are not flushed off their nests. Time spent off the nest increases the risk of egg predation. And if a female is flushed off her nest repeatedly, there's also a risk that she might abandon her nest altogether. Avoid flushing eiders off their nests. Scan for nesting birds as you travel across the tundra. Female eiders are very well camouflaged. Move slowly and observe your surroundings. Walk together in groups when possible.
It's very easy to stumble across a sea duck on the nest. When they see you, they're going to be flattened out on their nest. Their heads are going to be very low in the vegetation.
And they camouflage right into the tundra. Sometimes you don't know until they're right in front of you.
They can really disappear. They blend into the tundra for a reason, and the main reason is really to try to hide from predators such as snowy owls, Pomeranian Jaegers, and as well as Arctic foxes. You're out there to get either them or their eggs.
If you see a nesting eider, change your direction to avoid flushing the bird off its nest. If you do accidentally flush a bird off its nest, or discover a nest with no bird around, note what the eggs look like. Eiders tend to lay 1 to 10 solid, pale olive green eggs, similar in size and shape to chicken eggs. Often, female eiders line their nests with down feathers.
I've seen those biologists put some of that down over, so maybe I would do that too.
If there are down feathers or loose vegetation in or around the nest, cover the eggs with that material. When eiders take incubation breaks, they usually conceal their eggs before leaving.
A gull or a Jaeger that's flying overhead, if it sees eggs that look almost just white, very obvious from the air, they're going to pick that out quickly. Whereas if you cover it with the down, it's going to be much more difficult to see.
Don't set gear on the ground around the nest. This can mat down vegetation, making the nest more visible. And it can add to human scent, which may attract mammalian predators. Leave the area quickly to allow the bird to return. Stay as far away from the nest as possible. If you have to revisit the area where you know or suspect an eider is nesting, make note of where the nest is as best you can. For example, mark the location on a GPS. Avoid the area to the greatest extent possible during future visits. Again, if you don't know if the bird you flushed is a spectacled or Steller's eider, please treat the nest as though it belongs to one of these two threatened species. It's also very important to minimize your disturbance to female eiders with ducklings. During the first few weeks after ducklings hatch, they are an easy meal for predators. If disturbed, they can become separated from mom while swimming or moving across the tundra, making them more susceptible to predation. If an eider with ducklings is actively moving away from you, you are too close. Change your direction and move away from the family group as quickly as you can. Each summer, these birds are racing against time to successfully fledge young that are strong enough to migrate. It's an extreme energy expenditure for these birds. Weather and predators are constant challenges. Adding human disturbance to the mix amplifies these challenges and can be detrimental to nest success. So, as you participate in activities on the Arctic coastal plain, please help minimize human disturbance to spectacled and Steller's eiders. Remember to follow these guidelines as you travel the tundra. Avoid disturbing eiders and their ducklings during the breeding season. If an eider is swimming away from you, walking away from you, or flying away from you, you are too close. Avoid flushing nesting eiders. If you see a nesting eider, change your direction of travel. If you accidentally flush an eider off its nest, approach the nest and cover the egg with down feathers or surrounding vegetation. Do not put field gear on the ground near the nest. Leave the area quickly to allow the bird to return. Stay as far away from the nest as possible. And if you must revisit the site, make note of where the nest is to avoid it during future visits. Let's keep the Arctic coastal plain a productive nesting area for spectacled and Steller's eiders for decades to come.